Friends, if you want to watch super hit movie Moana 2 in English, then you must like this video if you are visiting our channel for the first time. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, friends. In today's video, the movie we are going to talk about is called Moana 2. We will talk about what this movie is and where you can watch it all. The interesting facts about this movie. In today's video, I'm going to tell you. I am also going to give you all the information on which OP platform or on which satellite channel you will get to watch this movie. Also, we will talk in detail about the technical department, music department, pre-production filming, post-production budget, box office collection of this film. We will also talk about the story of this film, and I will also give you a small review of the story of this film. Apart from this, we will discuss about the facts of this film storyline, star cast actors' performance in the film, and which development on a follow-up to Moana originally began as a long-form limited streaming series for Disney+, before it was reworked into a theatrical sequel by February 2024, with Derrick confirmed as both writer and director. The involvement of Hand, Miller, Chen, and Merino was confirmed in May. A month later, Bush was confirmed to be returning as a writer. Miller later replaced Derrick as a co-writer in August. Mark Mancina and Apataya Fawai, the composers and co-songwriters of the first film, returned to score and write the songs, while Abigail Barlow and Emily Bear replaced Lin-Manuel Miranda as additional songwriters. Moana 2 premiered at the Lanikuhonua Cultural Institute in Kapolei, Hawaii on November 21, 2024, and was released by Walt Disney Studios Motion Pictures in the United States on November 27th. The film received mixed reviews from critics and has grossed $109.6 million worldwide. Plot: following her adventure in Maui and Te Fitibi, Moana spends her days exploring new islands in hopes to find other people who are connected to the ocean. She gets a vision from her ancestor, Tautai Vasa, who tells her that the reason why no one is connected to the ocean anymore is because the malicious storm god Nalo wanted power over the mortals. So he sunk a mystical island called Motufetu, which connected all islands down to the depths of the ocean. Tautai further warns that her island will be deserted if Moana does not find a way to raise the island. She assembles a crew of people from Motunui, craftswoman Ledoux, Maui fanboy Moni, and grumpy elderly farmer Keki, alongside her pet pig and rooster Pua and Heihei, to find the island. Meanwhile, the demigod Maui is seeking Motufetu himself since he had a previous quarrel with Nalo, but he is captured by Nalo's enforcer Matangi. He is reluctant to contact Moana for help due to fearing for her life. Moana and her crew are captured by the Kakamora, a tribe of savage coconut-like pirates Moana had previously encountered, who reveal that Nalo's actions against Motufetu caused them to be disconnected from their home island. One of them, Kotu, helps the crew paralyze a giant monster clam that takes them to Matangi's lair. While the crew find Maui, Moana meets Matangi but learns that she is not happy serving Nalo. Encouraging Moana to find a different way to escape, she helps Moana escape and reunite with Maui and her friends before sending them to where Nalo is. Maui soon reveals that Nalo's realm is deadlier compared to the mortal realm and that fighting him will be a suicide mission. The group is ambushed and are washed ashore on an isolated island. Moana begins to despair, but Maui encourages her to press on. With Moana revitalized, the group plans to have Maui raise the island with Moana touching it, as that is the only way to restore Motufetu and stop Nalo. With the raft repaired, the crew ride off to face Nalo. As the group arrives, Nalo begins to attack. Moana, realizing that Nalo is trying to stop the humans from breaking the curse, has Maui lift the island enough for a human to touch it. However, Nalo manages to strip Maui of his godhood, forcing a desperate Moana to touch the island under sea. While she manages to, Nalo's storm kills her. Maui jumps in, and with the help of Moana's ancestors, they revive her as a demigod, with Moana gaining a Wayfinder's tattoo and Maui, having regained his powers as a demigod, managing to raise Motufetu, reconnecting the ocean with the mortals. Moana returns home, and a celebration is held in her honor. In a mid-credits scene, Nalo is about to punish Matangi for helping Moana with him planning revenge. They are soon visited by Tamatoa, who wants to join their cause to get revenge on Moana for her actions against him. Cast: Cravalho reprises her role in the film's Hawaiian language dubbing. Dwayne Johnson as Maui, a strong-willed, shape-shifting demigod who accompanies Moana on her journey. Hualālai Chung as Moni, a member of Moana's wayfinding crew and a fan of Maui's. Rose Matafeo as Loto, a brainy but quirky member of Moana's wayfinding crew. David Fain as Kele, a grumpy farmer and member of Moana's wayfinding crew. Auiʻi Fraser as Matangi, a mysterious threat to Moana and Maui. Fraser reprises her role in the film's Maori language dubbing. Khaleesi Lambert-Suda as Samia, Moana's little sister. Temuera Morrison as Tui, Moana's father and chief of Motunui Island. Unlike the first film, where his singing voice was done by Christopher Jackson, Morrison does his own singing. Morrison reprises his role in the film's Maori language dubbing. Nicole Scherzinger as Sina, Moana's mother and chiefess of Motunui. Rachel House as Tala, Tui's late mother and Moana's paternal grandmother, who returns as a manta ray spirit. House reprises her role in the film's Maori language dubbing. Gerald Ramsey as Tautaivasa, Moana's ancestor. Alan Tudyk as Heihei, Moana's pet rooster. Additionally, Johnson's daughters Jasmine and Tiana provide voices for members of Moana's fan club, Moana Bees. Tofiga Fepulei voices the god Nalo in the mid-credits scene, which also features the crab Tamatoa from the first film, again voiced by Jermaine Clement. Production development. In December 2020, during a Disney Investor Day meeting, Walt Disney Animation Studios' Chief Creative Officer Jennifer Lee announced that a long-form musical comedy series titled Moana, the series, based on the 2016 film of the same name, was in development at the studio and set for release on Disney Plus in 2023. By August 2021, it was reported that Osnat Shur would once again serve as producer. In January 2022, it was announced that David Derrick Jr. would serve as the writer and director after filling the role of storyboard artist of the first film. The series entered development simultaneously with the live-action remake of Moana, according to Jared Bush, a writer of the film and screenplay writer of the 2016 animated film. In February 2024, Disney CEO Bob Iger announced that the series had been reworked into a theatrical sequel titled Moana 2, with Derrick and Shur remaining attached to the project. By the release of the first trailer in May, Jason Hand and Dana Ledoux Miller were confirmed as co-directors alongside Derrick, while Christina, Chen, and Yvett Merino were revealed to replace Shur as the film's producers. Animation? Animation was handled at Walt Disney Animation Studios' Vancouver studio when it was being developed as a series, while pre-production and storyboarding took place at the Burbank studio. It is the first feature film to be made at the Vancouver studio, but not the first project released, with Iwaju being released earlier that year. At the Annecy International Animation Film Festival, it was revealed that veterans Mark Henn and Eric Goldberg would supervise a team of apprentices of hand-drawn animators for Maui's tattoos. Goldberg was a supervising animator for Mini Maui for the first film. On November 7, 2024, Disney revealed a full track list, along with the first single Beyond by Cravalho, which was billed as a spiritual sequel to the original Moana anthem, How Far I'll Go. On November 11th, Johnson revealed his song Can I Get a Chihu as a female empowerment song for Moana's character, which follows the tune of Maui's original You're Welcome. The original motion picture soundtrack released on November 22nd. Release Moana 2 had its world premiere at the Lanikuhonua Cultural Institute in Kapolei, Hawaii on November 21, 2024, and was released in theaters in the United States on November 27, 2024. Marketing. The first trailer for the film was released on May 29, 2024, after debuting at CinemaCon the month before. The trailer earned over 178 million views in its first 24 hours across all platforms, breaking a new record as the most-watched trailer of all time for a Disney animated film, a record previously held by Frozen 2 and Pixar's Inside Out 2, the latter of which the trailer was attached to in the theaters. A sneak peek of the film was screened at the 2024 Annecy International Animation Film Festival on June 14, 2024. On August 9, 2024, Cravalho and Johnson appeared at the Disney Entertainment Showcase at the 2024 D23 Expo in Anaheim, California, to promote the film and release a new trailer, which was released online shortly thereafter. During the D23 presentation, Cravalho performed a new song from the film, We're Back, accompanied by Polynesian dancers. Johnson also used the presentation to announce a new live-action Monster Jam film that he would be producing with Disney. Localization. Like the first movie, Moana 2 was released in European countries with the title and protagonist's name changed to Vaiana due to a trademark conflict. 4 special dubbings in Polynesian languages were released for the sequel in Hawaiian, Maori, Tahitian, and Samoan. The first 3 languages had previously received a dubbing of the first movie too, while a Samoan dubbing of the sequel was released without the original movie having been dubbed. Cravalho reprised the lead role in the Hawaiian dubbing of the sequel, like she did in the first movie, while several other members of the cast reprised their roles in the Maori dubbing. Of the 6 movies dubbed into Maori so far, Moana 2 is the first one to have premiered in New Zealand simultaneously in English and Maori. This marks the 3rd time in Disney's history a dubbing in an indigenous language is released at the same time as regular dubbings. The first such instance happened with the Tahitian dubbing of Moana, released in 2016 in French Polynesia. The second was the Sami dubbing of Frozen 2, released in 2019 in Finland, Norway, and Sweden. Reception. Box office. As of November 28, 2024, Moana 2 has grossed $85.5 million in the United States and Canada and $24.1 million in other territories, for a worldwide total of $109.6 million. In the United States and Canada, Moana 2 was originally projected to gross $105 to $115 million over the 5-day Thanksgiving weekend. After making $57.5 million on its first day, including $13.8 million from Tuesday night previews, both the highest ever for a Walt Disney Animation film and Thanksgiving week release, 5-day estimates were raised to $175 to $200 million. It then made a record $28 million on Thanksgiving, nearly doubling Frozen 2's previous high of $14.9 million. Critical response. On the review aggregator website Rotten Tomatoes, 65% of 149 critics' reviews are positive, with an average rating of 6.1/10. The website's consensus reads, "Riding high on a wave of stunning animation even when its story runs adrift, Moana 2 isn't as inspired as the original but still delights as a colorful adventure." Metacritic, which uses a weighted average, assigned the film a score of 57 out of 100, based on 41 critics indicating mixed or average reviews. Audiences polled by CinemaScore gave the film an average grade of A on an A+ to F scale, down from the first's A, while those surveyed by PostTrack gave it an 89% overall positive score, with 64% saying they would definitely recommend it. Typically is one of the highest-grossing box office days on the calendar, but this year it's coursing to an all-time record with around $107 million for all movies led by Disney's Moana 2. Friday also has a shot at being the highest-grossing day of 2024 to date, outstripping the $180.3 million on Friday, July 26th, when Deadpool and Wolverine led with to an R-rated opening day and weekend record, $96.1 million to $211.4 million. There's such a frenzy for Moana 2, Universal's Wicked and Paramount's Gladiator 2 tickets, that AMC at one point time this morning was experiencing a 13-minute wait time. That's a rich man's problem for the #1 exhibitor. The circuit has the situation under control, I'm told. Per ComScore, Friday easily will exceed the previous Black Friday record of $85 million, which was back in 2013 when Lionsgate's The Hunger Games: Catching Fire was the #1 title over the Wednesday-Sunday Thanksgiving period. Moana 2 is expected to do at least $55 million, which would make it a Black Friday record for the #1 grossing film, above Frozen 2's $34.1 million back in 2019. Wicked is on course to do $27 million Friday, while Paramount's Gladiator 2 is eyeing at $12.6 million. Moana 2 already is blowing away the Frozen 2 $125 million 5-day record over Thanksgiving and could do $200 million plus. Wicked is looking at the 4th best take over the holiday frame with $105.6 million, while Gladiator 2 is looking at $45 million. As we first told you, Dwayne Johnson has accomplished a rare feat for a Hollywood leading star at the box office. With Moana 2 and Red One, he's the first to have 2 #1 openings in the same month. Disney's Moana 2 grossed a massive $28 million on Thanksgiving Day, which is the most any movie has ever made on the foodie holiday. the sequel towering over previous champ Frozen 2, $14.9 million. Moana 2 isn't soaking up all the water. Universal's Wicked scored the second-best Thanksgiving Day take ever for a movie at $16.9 million. Uni has upped its forecast for the movie to $105.6 million over 5 days, which will ultimately be the fourth highest 5-day haul ever for a movie over Thanksgiving after Moana 2, Frozen 2, $125 million, and Hunger Games Catching Fire, $109.9. That's nothing to complain about. Disney is maintaining their $175 million plus forecast over 5 days for the film, even though others see this sequel well past $200 million. Today's business will determine how much to the heavens this Dwayne Johnson Auliʻi Cravalho movie goes. On a 3-day basis, Moana 2 is expected to be Johnson's second highest opening of all time, behind Furious 7's $147.1 million. As we already reported, Johnson is a box office anomaly. He's the only Hollywood star to open 2 #1 films in the same month, the other being Amazon MGM Studios' Red 1. 2-day take on Moana 2 stands at $85.5 million, while global is just under $110 million. Among all Thursdays, Moana 2 is the 8th biggest. Talk about diverse. Moana 2 pulled in 36% Hispanic and Latino, 27% Black, 18% Caucasian, and 11% Asian American on ComScore Screen Engine's post-track. 4.5 stars, 89% positive with a 64% definite recommend, with kids under 12 at 92% and 73% must-see right away. Mostly female at 71% with 42% women under 25, 29% women over 25, 16% men over 25, and 13% men under 25. Men and women over 25 gave the movie a 100% score. Moana 2's PLF business, which includes some IMAX, which Paramount's Gladiator 2 owns, is contributing 20% of the business, with 3D fueling 14% of the PIC's long weekend. The movie, directed by David G. Derrick, Jr., Jason Hand, and Dana Ledoux Miller, is playing big everywhere, but noticeably in the South Central and West. AMC Disney Springs reps the sequel's best gross so far in the nation with $273K. Paramount's Gladiator 2 has been pulling in consistent weekdays, yesterday taking in $6.7 million plus 2% over Wednesday. The 5-day forecast on the Ridley Scott-directed movie is now $45 million. Running total will be $112.8 after 10 days. The first movie in 2000 ended its stateside run at $187.7 million. Johnson on the live-action side is doing a great job competing with himself as Amazon MGM Studios. Christmas action title Red 1 is looking at $21.4 million over 5 days after a $3 million Thanksgiving Day, plus 8% over Wednesday. That Chris Evans co-star pick will stand at $78.8 million by EOD Sunday. Business for all films eased yesterday due to Thanksgiving by an estimated minus 36%, or $59 million, but it's all shooting back up today on Black Friday, which is expected to hit a $100 million plus record for all titles on the shopping day, technically becoming the second highest grossing day at the domestic BO YTD. One Queer, A24, 7 theaters, WED 74K through 27K, 3-day 145K, 5-day 250K, Portico 1. The 7 locations of NYC's AMC Lincoln Square, Angelica, Alamo Brooklyn, and LA's AMC Grove, AMC Burbank, Vista LA, and AMC Century City are putting up a theater average on the 3-day of $20. Thanksgiving update. It turns out Moana, singing witches and gladiators can coexist together and won't devour each other. All boats rose in the first day of the Thanksgiving stretch as Disney's opening day of Moana 2, Universal's Wicked, and Paramount's Gladiator 2 led all titles to a $92.2 million Wednesday, which was easily the second highest-grossing movie-going day of 2024 after Friday, July 26th, when Disney Marvel Studios' Deadpool and Wolverine drove all titles to a $118.3 million gross. Read further down, tomorrow, Black Friday, is bound to push yesterday's harvest to third best daily tally of the year. Moana 2 came in with $57.5 million yesterday, including $13.8 million Tuesday previews, which made it the best day ever for a Walt Disney animation title, and the third best opening for an animated movie after Incredibles 2, $71.2 million, and Inside Out 2, $63.5 million. Disney continues to see a $575 million plus 5-day Thanksgiving record, not only for an opening title, but theatrical release during the holiday period. 3-day is at $116 million. The swing factor is tomorrow Black Friday in regards to how massive or how short Moana 2 goes. No one is expecting her to fall into the ocean. Rivals see this Disney animated sequel sailing past 200 million plus by Sunday. Moana 2 gets an A cinema score, which is the same as Frozen 2. Disney's most watched movie on Disney Plus, the original Moana, got an A. Wicked saw its highest weekday gross yesterday so far, and the fourth highest day in its run with a fantastic $20.4 million. Doesn't seem like anyone minds the 2-hour and 40-minute running time, and there is a vibrant confidence from sources about the pic's legs. This puts the Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo movie toward a second weekend of $63.3 million, 44%, and a 5-day of $97.1 million. Don't be surprised if it hits $100 million. Running total by Sunday makes it the highest-grossing movie based on a Broadway show at $242 million. How high does this John M. Chu-directed musical feature go? The highest-grossing musicals of all time at the domestic box office belong to Warner Bros. Barbie, $636.2 million, The Lion King, $543.6, and Disney's live-action take of Beauty and the Beast, $504.4. Gladiator 2 ain't no chump with a $6.6 million Wednesday, second weekend of $28, 49%, and a 5-day of $40 million for a running total by Sunday, $107.2. Also opening in select NYC and LA theaters was Luca Guadagnino's Daniel Craig movie, Queer, taking in 74 yesterday at 7 locations for what's looking like an estimated $268 3-day and $390K 5-day. The movie, which is based on William S. Burroughs' novel, is set in 1950s Mexico and follows an American expat who leads a solitary life amidst a small American community. He falls for a much younger man, and they go on quite the trip. Pick is 78% certified fresh, with critics on Rotten Tomatoes. The Oscar-nominated Guadagnino saw his biggest opening at the box office with the Zendaya tennis romantic drama Challengers back in the spring with $15 million. As many sup today, moviegoing is expected to be off -44% today to around $51 million before soaring to what is expected to be a record $100 plus Black Friday. Not only do people shop, but they go to the movies too. The best Black Friday was in 2013, according to ComScore, when all picks grossed $85 million, led by Lionsgate's The Hunger Games: Catching Fire. Surfing into another 29 overseas markets on Thursday, Disney's Moana 2 now has an international box office gross of $24.1 million through 2 days in 39 total. Along with domestic's continued record-breaking performance, the global running cume is $109.6 million. Domestic delivered the best Thanksgiving Day ever. And even though the holiday does not figure overseas, there are records and milestones aplenty offshore, see below. Early results are putting Moana 2 on a path to a potential $300 million worldwide start. Once Friday's numbers are in, we'll have a clearer picture. Important to recall that without holidays overseas, weekend play is key for the sequel. But the first 2 days, offshore performance suggests it wouldn't be surprising to see Dwayne Johnson and Auliʻi Cravalho surf past $120 million through Sunday internationally. Thursday added Moana 2 in such majors as Mexico, Brazil, Germany, and Australia. To wit, Mexico grossed $2 million on Thursday with 76% market share for the best Walt Disney Animation Studios opening day ever. It came in 255% ahead of Moana, 3% ahead of Frozen 2, and 18% below Finding Dory. Brazil, with 80% market share for Moana 2, debuted to $1.3 million for the second highest WDS opening day of all time, fourth highest animated opening day ever, and second highest animated opening day of 2024 to date, behind Inside Out 2. The Bow was 103% ahead of Moana, 87% over Incredibles 2, 73% higher than Finding Dory, and 25% below Frozen 2. Moana 2 review: Disney sequel navigates higher stakes plot and oceans of expectations to make a satisfying splash. Germany's $1.2 million opening Thursday was the second highest for Walt Disney Animated Studios ever, behind only Frozen 2, and the third highest non-local opening day of 2024 to date. Launch day was 226% ahead of Moana and 20% ahead of Inside Out 2, which had an extra day at open. Australia at $1.1 was the second biggest Disney Pixar opening day of all time, behind only Incredibles, the fourth highest animated opening day ever and second biggest opening day of 2024 to date. The start was 141% ahead of Despicable Me 4, 96% above Inside Out 2, and 29% higher than Frozen 2. Disney's Moana 2 is off to a splashy start in its early international box office markets. diving in at $8.8 million on Wednesday from 10 total, with the sequel number 1 in each. Included in that bunch, France saw the best opening day of 2024 and the second highest animated opening day of all time, while Indonesia logged the top animated launch day ever, more market milestones below. Globally, the total through Wednesday is $66.3 million, as the Dwayne Johnson Auliʻi Cravalho starrer continues to set new benchmarks domestically. Recall that, conversely to domestic, this is not a key holiday period overseas, which makes some of the early wave offshore numbers and milestones all the more impressive. Coming into the offshore frame, the projected international box office opening through Sunday is $100 million plus. If play continues as so far demonstrated in these early overseas markets, that number is likely to swell. In France, Wednesday's 3.7 million reps the number 2 biggest animated opening of all time, behind only Incredibles 2, and the biggest opening day of the year. The start was 302% ahead of Moana, plus 75% including previews, 43% above Frozen 2, 40% including previews, and 44% over Inside Out 2, minus 13% including previews. Indonesia's $1.2 million debut is the biggest animated opening day of all time, and best for a non-local movie this year. At 83% market share, Maui, Moana, and Friends debuted more than 8x higher than the original film, 5x bigger than Finding Dory, 261% ahead of Incredibles 2, 254% above Inside Out 2, and 111% ahead of Frozen 2. In Korea, where Seoul and the surrounding areas on Wednesday were hit with the heaviest snowfall for the month of November in 117 years, Moana 2 nevertheless delivered $1.1 million for the number 3 biggest opening day ever of a Walt Disney Animation Studios Pixar release, behind Frozen 2 and Inside Out 2. Launch day was 154% ahead of Moana, 150% over Finding Dory, and 54% above Incredibles 2. The estimated cum in the market through today, not included in the totals above, is $1.76 million. Related, 10 most anticipated movies in theaters at the end of the year, from Glicked dual release to a complete unknown. With $900, Italy gave Moana 2 the second best launch day ever for DOS title, behind Ralph Breaks the Internet, which opened on a holiday. The start is 308% ahead of Moana, 13% ahead of Frozen 2, and 71% below Inside Out 2, which had school holidays in the mix. Philippines' $700K on Wednesday is the number 2 animated bow ever, behind Inside Out 2, and the second best non-local start of 2024. Opening day was 324% ahead of Finding Dory, 165% ahead of Incredibles 2, 76% ahead of Moana, and 73% ahead of Frozen 2. Opening today are Germany, Mexico, Australia, and Brazil. Friday adds the UK, Spain, and China. In total this opening session, this will rep about 90% of the international footprint as Japan goes a week later on December 6th. At the end of Moana, which came out 8 years ago, our plucky Polynesian heroine who's not a princess had defeated the giant lava monster Teka and returned the heart of Te Fiti, the moss-green goddess of nature. An eager but untested island girl, Moana became a wayfinder, restoring her lush tropical home and discovering along the way that her people had always been voyagers. She also bonded with the bickering but insecure refrigerator-bodied hunk demigod Maui, helping to restore his power as well. At heart, Moana was a buddy movie. All in all, she accomplished quite a bit, which may leave you wondering what's left for Moana to do in the sequel. The songs in Moana 2 by Abigail Barlow and Emily Bear are perky and appealing with that electrified island drum bounce, but most of them sound like the imitation Lin-Manuel knockoffs they are. The early getting wistful about the ocean number Beyond is fine in a generic way, but it's no How Far I'll Go. What Could Be Better Than This features a faux Lin rap, and Get Lost has a catchy hook. But none of the songs summon that indelible quality that sealed the story of Moana into our hearts. Maui still looks and talks like Jack Black on protein supplements, and Dwayne Johnson's performance once again is sheer blinkered aggro charm. The character of Matangi is introduced, a sharp-tongued goddess who OMI Fraser voices like the reincarnation of downtown Julie Brown, but she's given too little to do. There is also a lot of colorful slime. Moana 2 is an okay movie, an above-average kiddie roller coaster, and a piece of pure product, in a way that the first Moana, at its best, transcended. The new movie wears you down to win you over. It's a just efficient enough delivery system for follow your dreams inspiration to be a major holiday hit. When Maui, in one of the funnier lines, says to Moana that though she isn't a princess, a lot of people think you are, that's the film, in a good-natured way, having its rebel heroine cake and eating it too. By this point, Moana seems ready to level up to Island Queen, and I have a feeling that she'll get the chance. Can another tropical cataclysm, test of indie spirit moxie, and benign spasm of Maui troublemaking be far behind? Moana 2 is expected to make waves at the box office over the Thanksgiving holiday weekend. The sequel to Disney's musical hit Moana opens in 4,200 North American theaters on Wednesday and is projected to collect between $135 million to $145 million in its first 5 days of release. Those ticket sales would register as the biggest Thanksgiving frame, overtaking 2019's Disney sequel Frozen 2, $125 million over the 5 days, and 2013's Hunger Games Catching Fire, $109 million over the 5 days. Meanwhile, Gladiator 2 has grossed $60.5 million domestically and $225 million globally so far. Paramount's R-rated sequel to 2000's Gladiator looks to add $33 million from North American cinemas over the traditional weekend, declining 44% from its $55.5 million debut and $45 million between Wednesday and Sunday. The Sword and Sandal epic, starring Paul Mescal, Pedro Pascal, and Denzel Washington, cost a mighty $250 million to produce and at least $100 million to promote, so the tentpole needs to remain in the global box office arena to justify its price tag. After a Disney Animation best $13.8 million from Thursday's domestic previews and record-shattering Thanksgiving Day $28 million stateside, Moana 2 is riding a wave of audience love to nearly $110 million through Friday. Opening weekend is on course for north of $300 million worldwide box office, a staggering sum that heralds a strong holiday season at the box office. Moana 2's A grade from audiences via CinemaScore points to strong word of mouth heading into the Christmas holiday season. Combined with an equally impressive 87% popcorn meter grade from verified audiences at Rotten Tomatoes, where 65% of critics rank the film fresh, but only roughly half of the expected reviews are in yet, so the tomatometer will likely change in the coming days, Moana 2 looks to have smooth sailing ahead. Families are the key demographic here, obviously, and the equally impressive and record-setting second weekend of Universal's Wicked proves there's plenty of room for more than one blockbuster player over the holidays, as long as you give audiences what they want and deliver on the promise of the premise. And judging from the turnout, both Moana 2 and Wicked do exactly that. Besides Moana 2's $300+ million bow, Wicked should conjure up another $100+ million this weekend, as it eyes roughly $320 million globally through Sunday. This summer, Disney Pixar enjoyed the year's biggest box office performance with the highest-grossing animated release of all time, Inside Out 2. That film's $1.69 billion also made it the 8th biggest movie, animated or live-action, of all time. Christmas competition. For Moana 2. Making Moana 2's Thanksgiving debut even more promising is the forecast of open seas ahead at multiplexes until mid-December, when the Christmas box office hopefuls arrive in town with visions of blockbuster glory dancing in their heads. New Line and Warner Bros. Discovery's The Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim, and Sony's Spider-Man Universe SSU villain origin movie Kraven the Hunter arrive December 13th. I expect Kraven to suffer the same sad fate as the rest of Sony's recent superhero releases. It's been a tale of diminishing returns from the get-go. Venom kicked off the SSU with $856 million back in 2018, but the sequel Venom Let There Be Carnage dropped to $506.8 million in 2021, and this year's Venom The Last Dance is looking at perhaps a $475 million worldwide finish if it's lucky. Morbius in 2022 took a lousy $167 million off terrible reviews and low audience score, and earlier this year, Madam Web set a new low with $100 million. These are worldwide totals, mind you. So I expect Kraven to miss the hunt for Christmas bonuses, with perhaps $400 million, if not less, if Santa brings some seasonal boost. On the other hand, The War of the Rohirrim wields the powerhouse branding of Lord of the Rings at the box office. The Lord of the Rings and prequel The Hobbit franchise have grossed a combined $5.933 billion in worldwide box office, including the animated The Hobbit film in 1978. So a performance of merely $67 million by the War of the Rohirrim would push the franchise into $6 billion territory. And even without the 1978 animated ticket sales, the series is still less than $100 million away from that $6 billion bar. And the two live-action trilogies are $5.9 billion on their own, with a per-film average of $983 million. But can the new feature release count on the same sort of attendance? Moana 2 review plot. After receiving an unexpected call from her wayfinding ancestors, Moana must journey to the far seas of Oceania and into dangerous, long-lost waters for an adventure unlike anything she's ever faced. Whenever a studio gets a hit film, you can almost guarantee that there will be a sequel eventually. And after Moana took the world by storm in 2016, it was clear that we had a new franchise on our hands. So Disney has gotten to work, creating a Moana theme park at Disney World, and even producing a live-action version set to release in 2026. But it would be silly to ignore the actual source of all this success, so they've taken to making a direct sequel to their hit film, and it's pretty much exactly what you'd think it'd be. I wasn't a massive fan of the first film, but I'm pretty open-minded when it comes to Disney animation. Give me a heartfelt story that tugs at my heartstrings, and I'm all about it. Moana 2 follows the title character, voiced again by Auliʻi Cravalho, as she sets out to find other islands of humanity. Her and Maui, Dwayne Johnson, must raise an entire island in order to bring the people together. While Moana and Maui are clearly the stars of the show, this also works as a team-up film, with her getting various characters to join her on her journey. They each are set up with good characterizations and feel distinct from one another. I had a blast with all of them, and they bring an energy that was mostly reliant on the rock the first go-around. Often these films need a big villain for our heroes to go up against, but this time around it's mostly an omnipotent being. That means we're saved from any stereotypical monologues or story beats that we've seen time and time again. Instead, the villain is essentially a force of nature that our heroes must contend with. Given the elemental approach to the lore of this world, it feels very apropos. This may be a weird thing to highlight given that this is a musical, but I was extremely impressed with how appropriately timed the music sections felt. They didn't undercut any dramatic moments and are there to bring that trademark Disney joy and happiness. Though I certainly missed the crab. I really love the visuals, as I just can't get enough of that fantastical mysticism mixed with islander culture. The two blend together very well and make for some visually impressive moments. Animation is getting so good that if there wasn't already a caricature look to the design, these people would enter Uncanny Valley. The hair looks like it could be in live action. It's so realistic. At a certain point, live action stuff is going to feel moot with how close animation can get to the real thing. Lin-Manuel Miranda did not return for the music this time around, but it still sounds very similar. There's that Pacific Islander theme mixed with various contemporary stylings. The biggest difference is that it seems like they weren't able to hide Dwayne Johnson's lack of singing talent. He's mostly just reciting the lines, and it really stands out amongst the other powerhouse vocals. He only really gets the one song, and that's probably for the best. I still really enjoy the Maui character and get that he's the main attraction for many. We are in a strange time because, with the live-action version on the horizon, we could very well be seeing this sequel take a similar route. But the world of Moana is so much fun, allowing for dramatic moments amongst the more lighthearted ones. Moana 2 is able to bring a similar flavor to the original while actually improving upon it in many ways. This is clearly not the last we've seen of Moana and Friends, and I'm sure that Disney will be making bank along the way. 3 years after her transformative adventure, Moana Auliʻi Cravalho returns to the ocean for another daring quest. Now a skilled wayfinder, she embarks on a mission to locate the mysterious island of Motufetu. Accompanied by a ragtag crew and her shape-shifting, mischievous demigod ally Maui, Dwayne Johnson, Moana faces new challenges that test her courage and determination. Review. This much-anticipated sequel bursts onto the screen with vibrant energy, drawing audiences back into the enchanting world of Moana. The titular heroine has grown into a confident and stunning wayfinder, her beauty matched only by the dazzling visuals of the film. However, while the premise promises a thrilling journey, the film's execution stumbles at times. As Moana ventures into uncharted seas to uncover the island of Motufetu, she confronts a series of obstacles ranging from ferocious sea monsters to wacky coconut warriors. Her determination and bravery anchor the story, yet the overall narrative lacks suspense. The outcome feels predictable, as the writers Jared Bush, Dana Ledoux Miller, and Beck Smith stick to tried and tested tropes of an adventure saga. Directors David G. Derrick Jr., Jason Hand, and Dana Ledoux Miller ensure that the action and thrill tick all the expected boxes, but they also crowd the plot with extraneous characters and subplots. While the film retains its charm, its momentum drags, especially in the middle portions, where Moana's journey feels less organic and more like a checklist of quirky encounters. Being a musical adventure, the story's rhythm often slows, weighed down by songs that don't always elevate the narrative. It's only during the climactic scenes that the film finally picks up steam, delivering a high-energy conclusion befitting its nautical setting. Still, Moana 2 dazzles visually, with animation that surpasses not just its predecessor but many other films in the genre, in both scope and detail. The ocean, teeming with life and color, becomes a character in itself, reflecting Disney's commitment to pushing the boundaries of animated storytelling. Each frame is a masterpiece, offering a kaleidoscope of imagination and artistry that begs to be experienced on the big screen. Auliʻi Cravalho once again shines as Moana, her voice infusing the character with warmth, strength, and a touch of vulnerability that makes her journey relatable. Dwayne Johnson's Maui brings humor and charm to the narrative, though the writing doesn't allow him much evolution. The supporting cast performs admirably, even if their characters feel underutilized or unnecessary. Musically, Moana 2 hits the right notes, but stops short of being extraordinary. While Apataya Foai and Mark Mancina craft a rich soundscape, the songs lack the emotional resonance that made the original so unforgettable. Instead, the soundtrack opts for a practical, almost functional role within the story, delivering pleasant but unmemorable melodies. Moana to touch the island undersea with Nalo's storm killing. Her Maui jumps in, and with the help of Moana's ancestors, they revive her with Moana gaining a Wayfinder's tattoo, and Maui raises Modu reconnecting the ocean. With the mortals, Moana returns home and a celebration is held in her honor. In a mid-credit scene, Nalo is about to punish Matangi for helping Moana, with him planning revenge. They are soon visited by Tamatoa, who wants to join their cause to get revenge on Moana for her actions against him in the first film cast, and characters Ali Callow as Moana, the curious daughter of village chief Tue, and his wife Sena, who is chosen by the ocean to break the curse on the island of Modu Kalo. IES her role in the film's Hawaiian language dubbing Dwayne Johnson as Maui, a strong-willed shape-shifting demigod who accompanies Moana on her journey. Hualālai Chung as Moi, a member of Moana's wayfinding crew, and a fan of Maui Rose Mafio as Loto Brainy. But quirking member of Moana's wayfinding crew David Fain as Kay, a grumpy farmer, and member of Moana's wayfinding crew Lai Fraser as Matangi, a mysterious threat to Moana and Maui. Fraser reprises her role in the film's Maui language dubbing. Kisi Lambert Suda as Saya Moana's little sister, Teoa Morrison as to Moana's father and chief of Motunui Island. Unlike the first film, where his singing voice was done by Christopher Jackson Morrison, does his own singing, Morrison reprises his role in the film's My Language dubbing Nicole Scherzinger as China Moana's mother and chief Tess of UI. Rachel House is Talatu's late mother and Moana's paternal grandmother, who returns as a manta ray. Spirit House reprises her role in the film's Maui language dubbing Gerald Ramsey as T.I. Vesa Moana's ancestor Alan Teak is Haya Moana's pet rooster. Additionally, Johnson's daughters Jasmine and Tiana provide voices for members of Moana's fan club. Moana B's Tagafuli voices the god Nalo in the mid-credit scene, which also features Tamatoa from the first film, again voiced by Jermaine Clement. Production in December 2012 during a Disney Investor Day meeting. Walt Disney Animation Studios' Chief Creative Officer Jennifer Lee announced that a long-form musical comedy series titled Moana, The series, based on the 2016 film of the same name, was in development at the studio and set for release on Disney. Plus, in 2023, that be why, August 2021, it was reported that Osnet Sher would once again serve as producer. In January 2022, it was announced that Derrick Jr. would serve as the writer and director after filling the role of storyboard artist of the first film. The series entered development simultaneously with the live-action remake of Moana, according to Jared Bush, a writer of the film and screenplay writer of the 2016 animated film. In February 2024, Disney CEO Bob Iger announced that the series had reworked into a theatrical sequel titled Moana 2, with Derrick and Sher remaining attached to the project by the release of the first trailer in May. Jason Hand and Dana Leo Miller were confirmed as co-directors alongside Derrick, while Christina Chen and Yvett Merino were revealed to replace Sher as the film's producers, casting shortly after the announcement that the series was being repurposed into a theatrical feature. Film Auliʻi Cravalho and Dwayne Johnson were confirmed to reprise the respective roles as Moana, and Maui Johnson later confirmed that he had been involved with the project since its conception, including its development, stating, "I can't wait for fans to see the film. The technology, the effects, cutting edge. We all really went for it. We thought if we're going to make a sequel to something so beloved, let's really go for it." Several more cast members were unveiled at the One International Animation Film Festival, including Tioa Morrison and Nicole Scherzinger reprising their roles as Moana's parents from the first film. New additions include Kessie Lambert-Suda as Moana's new sister and Rose Maffio David Fane, and Hualālai Chung as members of Moana's wayfinding crew. Animation was handled at Walt Disney Animation Studio Vancouver Studio, beginning when it was being developed as a series, while pre-production and storyboarding took place at the Burbank studio. It is the first feature film to be made at the Vancouver studio, but not the first project released, with Aja being released earlier that year at the One International Animation Film Festival. It was revealed that veterans Mark Henn and Eric Goldberg would supervise a team of apprentices of hand-drawn animators for Maui's tattoos. Goldberg was a supervising animator for Minnie Mau. For the first film, Mark Menina and Opad Foy returned to compose the film score, while Abigail Barlow and Emily Bear wrote the songs, replacing Lin-Manuel Randa from the first film. Cravalho stated that having Barlow and Bear, two young women, help voice Moana's story, which is a young woman finding her way. "I couldn't think of a better duo than Barlow and Bear. This is a new part of my voice. This film digs into these low notes in these times of indecision, when we don't know what we are supposed to do next." There's a lot of deeper layers to these songs. On November 7th, 2024, Disney revealed a full track list along with a first single, Beyond by Cravalho, which was billed as a spiritual sequel to the original Moana anthem. How Far I'll Go. On November 11th, Johnson revealed his song Can I Get a Chi, who has had a female empowerment song for Moana's character, which follows the tune of Maui's original You're Welcome. The original motion picture soundtrack, released on November 22nd, release Moana 2 had its world premiere at the Lanikuhonua Cultural Institute in Cap, Hawaii on November 21st, 2024, and was released in theaters in the United States on November 27th, 2024. Marketing: the first trailer for the film was released on May 29th, 2024, after debuting at CinemaCon. The month before, the trailer earned over 178 million views in its first 24 hours across all platforms, breaking a new record as the most watched trailer of all time for a Disney animated film, a record previously held by Frozen 2 and Pixar's Inside Out 2, the latter of which the trailer was attached to in the theaters. A sneak peek of the film was screened at the 2024 WONK International Animation Film Festival on June 14th, 2024, on August 9th, 2024, Cravalho and Johnson appeared at the Disney Entertainment Showcase at the 2024 D23 Expo in Anaheim, California, to promote the film and release a new trailer, which was released online shortly thereafter during the E23 presentation. Kahlo performed a new song from the film We're Back accompanied by Polynesian dancers. Johnson also used the presentation to announce a new live-action Monster Jam film that he would be producing with. Disney localization, like the first movie Moana 2, is set to be released in European countries with the title and protagonist's name changed to Viana due to a trademark conflict. 4 special dubbings in Polynesian languages are set to be released for the sequel in Hawaiian, Maui, Tahitian, and Samoan. The first 3 languages had previously received a dubbing of the first movie, while a Samoan dubbing of the sequel will be released without the original movie having been dubbed. Kahlo is set to reprise the lead role in the Hawaiian dubbing of the sequel, like she did in the first movie, while several other members of the cast will reprise their roles in the Mai dubbing of the 6 movies dubbed into Maui so far. Moana 2 will be the first one to premiere in New Zealand. Sim Ousley in English and Maui. This marks the 3rd time in Disney's history a dubbing in an indigenous language is released at the same time as regular dubbings. The first such instance happened with the Tahitian dubbing of Moana released in 2016 in French Polynesia. The second was the Sami dubbing of Frozen 2, released in 2019 in Finland, Norway, and Sweden. Reception. According to Deadline, Hollywood Moana 2 is projected to gross over $5 to $150 million in the United States and Canada over the 5-day Thanksgiving weekend, making it the biggest opening for a film. Released during that period, a record currently held by Frozen 2013 on November 26th, the film set a record for Disney and Thanksgiving weekend box office previews, earning $13.8 million. This was higher than the $13 million that Inside Out to 2024, which would go on to be a box office, made in its preview box office critical response on the review aggregator. Website Rotten Tomatoes, 67% of 129 critics' reviews are positive with an average rating of 6.2. The website's consensus reads, riding high on a wave of stunning animation, even when its story runs adrift, Moana 2 isn't as inspired as the original, but still delights as a colorful adventure. Metacritic, which uses a weighted average, assigned the film a score of 57 out of 100, based on 39 critics indicating mixed or average reviews. Moana 2 movie reviews at the end of Moana, which came out 8 years ago, our plucky Polynesian heroine, who not a princess had defeated the giant lava monster Taa and returned the heart of Tifi, the moss-green goddess of nature. An eager but untested island girl, Moana became a wayfinder, restoring her lush tropical home in discovering along the way that her people had always been voyagers. She also bonded with the bickering but insecure refrigerator-bodied hunk demigod Maui, helping to restore his power. As well at heart, Moana was a buddy movie. All in all, she accomplished quite a bit, which may leave you wondering what's left for Moana to do in the sequel. That's a silly question, of course, since the premise of a movie like Moana 2 is that a team of screenwriters are going to put their heads together and come up with a whole lot of seismic news saving the world. Hoops for Moana to jump through the movie has barely even begun when it hits us with a cataclysm. Moana, voiced once, again with pearly precocity by Auliʻi Cravalho, is yearning to seek out people from other islands, but she discovers that isn't possible. The nasty god Nalo has placed a curse on Motu, the island that once connected everyone. How does an island connect everyone? Oh, never mind. Moana must now journey to the distant seas of Oceania to remove that curse by fighting Nalo. I wouldn't quite put this in the category of same as tea, different day, but the story is engineered to strike very familiar beats. It's also what Stephen C. Bannon, for one, would call a parable of globalization. The difference is that Moana has already grown up into a heroine who found her faith, believes in herself, and all that other good stuff. She doesn't have much in her journey left, so Motu, far more than the first film, becomes a non-interior animated action fairy tale in Moana. I always felt like the sequence where Moana, Maui, and their animal sidekicks, the cuddly pig Pua, the demented rooster Hai-ai, fight off the Kakura. Those coconut pirates who look like souvenirs in a Tahiti novelty shop slowed the movie down in Moana 2. Moana travels on her handsome flat canoe with a crew of one-notey human sidekicks. The punky brat Lotto Rose Machio, the Kagan farmer, K. David Fane, and the Mooney, A. Dude Mohuai Chong, who idolizes Maui to the point of having a crush on him when she runs once more into the Kakamura. But the sequence that follows is actually the most rousing in the movies so far. They team up with that coconut brigade to defeat a clam. So massive that it's literally a mountain split in half. That's a cool image to gawk at. And there are other ticklish creatures in Moana too, like Towering Sea Monster, or this movie's equivalent of the lava demon, the god Nalo, a purple light force embedded in ocean tornadoes that emit such a potent charge, they knock the tattoos right off of Maui. Moana 2 has 3 directors, David Derrick Jr., Jason Hand, and Dana Leo Miller, none of whom has made a feature before they staged the film with a standard, impressive technical flair, a flow of movement that keeps your eyeballs dancing. That said, this is also a musical one, that Lin-Manuel Miranda, having launched a new branch of his career as a Disney tunesmith with Moana, elected not to come back for I can understand why. His moan songs were memorable, especially How Far I'll Go, Yan, You're Welcome, and he only upped his game with Encanto in even more intricately inspired entertainment. But Miranda, I'm guessing, figured that he'd already told the story of Moana through song, and didn't need to rehash it. The songs in Moana 2 by Abigail Barlow and Emily Bear are perky and appealing with that electrified island drum bounce, but most of them sound like the imitation Lin-Manuel knockoffs. They are the early getting wistful about the ocean number Beyond is fine in a generic way, but it's no How Far I'll Go. What Could Be Better Than This features a FenWap and Get Lost has a catchy hook, but none of the songs summon that indelible quality that sealed the story of Moana into our hearts. Maui still looks and talks like Jack Black on protein supplements, and Dwayne Johnson's performance once again is sheer blinkered agar charm. The character of Matangi is introduced, a sharp-tongued goddess who Alamy Fraser voices like the reincarnation of downtown Julie Brown, but she's given too little to do. There is also a lot of colorful slime. Moana 2 is an okay movie, an above-average kiddie roller coaster, and a piece of pure product, in a way that the first Moana at its best transcended the new movie, wears you down to win you over. It's a just efficient enough delivery system for follow your dream's inspiration to be a major holiday hit. When Maui, in one of the funnier lines, says to Moana that though she isn't a princess, a lot of people think you are. That's the film in a good-natured way, having its rebel heroine cake and eating it too. By this point, Moana seems ready to level up to Island Queen, and I have a feeling that she'll get the chance. Can another tropical Katak-M test of indie spirit moxie and benign spasm of Maui troublemaking be far behind when Disney first announced Moana 2 in February 2024? I was apprehensive here, was a surprise. Announcement mere months out from a November release that a Moana TV show had been reworked into a feature film. Did that mean Moana 2 was a rush job for Disney to recover from some of its 2023 box office disappointments like The Marvels and Wish? And if so, would that mean sacrificing quality for a swift turnaround? Thankfully, Moana to soothe my worries. And then some thanks to its blend of epic adventure and its deeply felt story about family ties. Yes, there are elements that don't hit as hard, including a cookie-cutter villain and some songs that just don't pass muster when compared to Moana's, but most of Moana 2 measures up to, and occasionally even surpasses what came before. And that's due in no small part to the growth of its incredible heroine. Even if you haven't rewatched Moana since 2016, Moana 2 wastes no time in reminding you that Moana, voiced by Ali, Kalo Mean Girls, is a total badass in the film's opening sequence. She runs through a dense rainforest. Forrest leaps across a ravine and climbs a steep rock face with her trusty pig Pua on her back. Seconds later, we get a classic hero shot. Moana, hair streaming in the wind, atop an island mountain, survey the vast ocean around her. She takes a deep breath, blows a welcoming call into her conch, and no one answers. Turns out, despite Moana's expert wayfinding skills, she hasn't been able to find any other humans who live in the ocean. Moana's island home of Motunui is thriving, though, and Moana is nothing less than a living legend there. Young girls dress and do their hair like her, going as far as to find their own version of Pua. The film dubs them Mo. Abe's everyone calls her the future of Motunui. Her father, Tui Teoa Morrison, the Book of Boba Fett Motunui, is chief, even wishes to bestow the title of Tai upon her in honor for a skilled navigator and leader that hasn't been held for many, many years. Products available for purchase here through affiliate links are selected by our merchandising team. if you buy something through links on our site. Mashable may earn an affiliate commission, but when Moana gets a desolate vision of Muni's future, should they not reconnect with other humans? She faces a difficult choice. She could strike out for the legendary island of Maju, which used to connect all the oceans, pathways, and peoples. Yet it's farther than Moana or any of her ancestors have ever gotten, not to mention cursed by the human-hating god Nalo. If she goes, she risks not coming back to her family or her beloved island. Here's where Moana 2 really shows us how far Moana has grown with age and greater status in Motunui. She's become far more aware of the stakes of her potential failure. Plus, she's terrified to lose her family, especially her scene-stealing. Little sister Simia Kesi, Lambert Suda with the weight of the world on her shoulders. Moana sets a course for Maud. Fitu, along with an upgraded canoe and a new crew. Moana may be used to wayfinding. By herself. But in Moana 2, she's got to share a canoe with 3 newbies. Keen-eyed inventor Lotto Starstruck's Rose Mafio brings an endearing enthusiasm to the squad, even if her tendency to take apart the canoe, in her efforts to improve it, is concerning. As the oldest member of the crew, you might expect Farmer K. David Fiend, our flag means death, to bring elder wisdom to the journey, but he's more the crotchety complainer type. Rounding things out is Motunui legend expert M. Kai Chung, who doubles as the canoe's resident Maui Dwayne Johnson fanboy. Yes, he paints fanfic of him and Maui being best friends. So imagine Mo's sadness when he realizes Maui isn't along for the ride, while Moana could desperately use his help. Maui is actually in a pickle of his own. He's trapped by Nal's accomplice, the goddess Matangi Awami Fraser, whom I can only describe as a bat diva, constantly surrounded by a cloud of the winged creatures and even sporting bat fangs. Herself, Matangi exudes vamp-icy aura. She almost gives Moana's shiny crab Tamatoa. Jermaine Clement a run for his money, but Matangi isn't the only foe Moana and company will have to conquer. The coconut pirates known as the Kakamura are back to wreak havoc, while a giant island-sized clam risks swallowing our heroes whole. With so many colorful creatures to face, it's a shame that Moana 2's big bad, Nalo, is basically a non-entity, reducing the otherwise very cool final set piece to a faceless confrontation with Inclement. Whether contrast Moana 2's magical waterspouts with Moana's expressive lava monster Teika to get a sense of how detached the sequel is from its villain, except for a mid-credit scene that somehow implies he's Moana Thanos. Luckily, Moana 2 finds plenty of connection elsewhere, from Moana's friendships with Maui and her crewmates to her continued relationship with her ancestors. Grandma Tala Thor Ragnarok's Rachel House is back to pass along some wisdom and give us a good hard cry along the way. Elsewhere, Moana's steadfast belief in bringing the people of the ocean back together makes for a necessary counterpoint to Nal's hopes to see discord and isolation, at least what little we learn of it through exposition. Moana's optimism and determination proves there's power in connection, which we get to see firsthand as her crew begins to gel at sea with its beautiful textured animation and its propulsive adventure to the far ends of the ocean. Moana 2 is another win for Disney Animation, the only major letdown. The film songs, which are totally okay, but certainly nothing special compared to Moana's greatest hits. Moana composers and songwriters Mark Menina and Opita Hawaii have returned from Moana 2.0, but one key member of the first film's team is missing. Songwriter Lin-Manuel Miranda taking his place are Abigail Barlow and Emily Bear, the Grammy-winning team behind the unofficial Bryden musical. Even so, Miranda's presence is greatly missed, with songs often feeling like lackluster rehashes of the first film. Songs Take Beyond, essentially a toned-down evolution of How Far I'll Go, where Moana readies herself to go back out into the ocean. Cravalho's delivery is gorgeous, and I could listen to her sing for hours, but do I remember a single line of that song? Beyond, I'll go beyond. Then there's Maui's Can I Get a Chihu, a patter song that will make you miss the fast-paced wordplay of your Welcome a Flaming Kong solo does lend it some extra flair. The patter extends to travel song. What could be better than this? While I adore Mafi's lightning-fast delivery of loose science-themed rap, it all feels like imitation Miranda awkward. Rhythmic moments and some obvious rhymes further highlight how much of an asset he was on Moana. Even the funky get lost. My beloved bat, Diva Matt's big number is a letdown based on her character introduction. You might expect something in the vein of a Dark Bond theme. Instead, you get a pop tune that, despite Fraser's serious pipes, feels fairly generic. The slow-down piano beginning also can't help but remind me of The Princess and the Frogs. Almost there. Although I'm sure other similarities abound, all I'm saying is if the previous film's villain song featured a giant coconut crab doing a David Bowie tribute, you've got to high. At least Moana 2's less-than-inspired songs get a boost from their accompanying animated sequences. Can I get a chai who drops us into a god-tier obstacle course while Get Lost features? Some pretty rad choreography. What could be better than this? Also scores laughs. From Kayla's annoyance at Moana Mo and Ledoux' increasingly excited dances, which low-key read like they're trying to get him to join their ocean-loving cult. That's the magic of Moana 2. Even when the songs aren't hitting, something else will elevate them, turning a decent number into a great experience. Other information about this film back in the 1990s, Disney frequently released direct-to-video sequels to their popular theatrical properties. Occasionally, these sequels would be constructed from several episodes of an abandoned TV series, and they were the absolute worst. So when I heard that the Moana Limited series on Disney Plus would be restructured into a theatrical sequel, my mind flew back to the horror of those direct-to-video duds. And while Moana 2 does feel like a fully constructed story, as opposed to several disparate episodes, it's completely missing the heart and soul of the original film Moana Oikalo. Mean Girls has spent the last several years as a wayfinder for her people, searching for other communities spread across the ocean. When she receives a message from her ancestors, she sets out with a new crew in search of a missing island that can lead to finding those other communities. If only they can survive these new, dangerous waters. Moana 2 is gorgeously displayed with some of the most striking visuals of recent animated fare, and the three-person directing team made great use of that visual palette in order to showcase some of the most action set pieces of the year. While the film is lacking in other aspects, it's absolutely exciting when focused on its adventure story, even though it's similarly structured to its predecessor, providing new context to some returning players like the Kakamura, and even some new mythical creatures like the giant clam island are delightful. Unfortunately, Moana 2 feels like a movie of obligatory elements that are both unnecessary and unsuccessful. The first film featured musical numbers, so the creative team included new songs, but the absence of Lin-Manuel Miranda is felt, and there isn't a single song in the film that is impactful or memorable once leaving the theater. The first film had Dwayne Johnson, Jumanji Welcome to the Jungle, as Maui, so the team wrote Maui into the sequel. The problem is that Maui doesn't feel necessary to Moana 2 this time around. Moana has a team of her villagers assisting in her quest. And if the film had given the dedicated Maui runtime to developing these supporting characters and Moana's internal journey to become the leader, her people need her to be, the film would have been all the better. Speaking of the new secondary characters, I appreciated the idea of giving a chance to become a leader and introducing a number of new characters to join her. This should give the sequel an identity all its own, but we quickly learn, however, that the screenplay just assigns each of these supporting players a single definable trait. One of them loves to tinker, one of them hates everything, one of them loves Maui. But that's about it. Had these characters been fleshed out, the whole film would have felt more important to Moana's character growth as she finds a way to make them work together. But no, we have to get Maui back instead, making the follow-up feel more washing repeat than its original. Moana 2 has some genuine excitement in its narrative, and it's a lovely-looking movie, but it feels so shackled to what the filmmakers think they need to include instead of what would actually benefit the film. Remove the music in Maui and uplift your supporting players, and the sequel has a lot more to work with. But what is here feels a little soulless. While not a bad film, certainly much better than most of those direct-to-video sequels, this follow-up is a mixed bag. It'll work for families looking for harmless, consumable entertainment, though I found it to be a mostly missed opportunity to forge a new path. Moana 2 is another Disney sequel that's content to go through the motions, often feeling like the Disney Plus original that it was once intended to be Before pivoting to a holiday theatrical release, it looks gorgeous, which may be enough for some viewers, but it's a remarkably thin piece of storytelling. An adventure tale with very little actual adventure, and a musical with very few memorable songs, while the lingering goodwill of the beloved 2016 original could be enough to make this worth the price of admission. Even the most Disney-fied family members will have trouble remembering much about it by the time the credits are done rolling. Moana 2 opens 3 years after the end of the first movie, with the titular heroine, Auliʻi Cravalho, endeavoring to break the curse of Nalo that has essentially isolated islands of people. Moana is searching the seas for the mythical island of Ledoux, which can reportedly unite these different cultures. Still, it has been so hidden by Nalo that generations have been unable to find it. Moana says goodbye to Mom Sina Nicole Scherzinger, Dad Tuteo Morrison, doing a lot with very little, and little sis Simia Kisi. Lambert Suda and sets sail with a new crew of wayfinders. These include her pet pig and pet rooster, along with 3 new allies: a farmer named K. David Fain, an architect named Lotto Rose Mafio, and a warrior named Auliʻi Chung, who idolizes the legendary Maui Dwayne Johnson, who is being held prisoner by a witch named Matangi, Amai Fraser, for the first hour of the relatively short film. Let's start there. Kids eager to see Moana and Maui reunite and sail the open seas will be disappointed by how little they actually interact in Moana 2. It's truly bad decision given the natural chemistry between Cravalho and Johnson that most people associate with the first film. It takes about an hour for Moana and company to work their way across Oceania and get to Maui just as he escapes Matan's imprisonment, which makes far too much of Jared Bush and Dana Leo Miller's script feel like setup K. Lotto and Mo are fine, and who doesn't love quirky animal sidekicks? Kids will be wondering where Maui is for far too long. They would probably get less restless if Moana 2 had more adventure. In general, while the film carries some notable resonant cultural material, there's little actual adventure in what should be a story that amplifies Moana's burgeoning heroism. The gang encounters a tribe of coconuts and a giant clam, which are both cool designs, but there are few actual major events in Moana 2 when one thinks about the sparse nature of the plot when it's done honestly. Inside Out 2 has more old-fashioned adventure plotting, which is a true shame. This should be the movie that makes Moana into a truly heroic character. But the writers don't give her enough to do for that to happen. They also don't give her enough to sing. Don't underestimate the power of a great song or two to really elevate the legacy of a Disney animated film. Frozen wouldn't have hit the same without Let It Go, and the virality of that Bruno tune made Encanto a hit. When people think of Moana, the joyful "You're welcome" and the Oscar-winning beauty of How Far Go are often what they think of first, and the original songs here just don't match the wonder of the original. To say that they really miss the involvement of Lin-Manuel Miranda would be an understatement. There's a playful Maui tune called Can I Get a Chi? That mostly works, and could maybe get that Bruno virality if the social team here plays it right. And you'll hear a reasonably rousing recurring theme called Beyond, but neither will be pumping through Disney World like the best of these songs from the best of these movies. If there's one thing that works about Moana 2, it's the visual artistry that a 2020s Disney budget brings to a production like this one. You can almost touch the flowing water and feel the breeze as it moves through the hair of the characters, who are also individually well-designed, from Mao's tattoos to the colorful coconut tribe to the aforementioned clam. Moana 2 is never boring to look at. It's eye candy, but the legend of Moana deserved something more nutritious. More detail, Moana 2 is not the follow-up we expected, as it was originally meant to be a Disney Plus show and instead arrived as a feature film. I must admit it was lovely seeing it on the big screen, especially during a gloomy December evening in London, but I can't help but imagine what a full series would have looked like. Personally, I rather like the idea of an entire series dedicated to Hey Hey. Alla Forky asks a question which centers on the much-loved toy Fork character from Toy Story 4, an 8-episode series about a stupid chicken, is right up my street. I did have high hopes going into this movie, and I am happy to say that most of my expectations were met. Such bright and beautiful visuals are always a welcome treat. For example, I am fascinated by how, they seem to animate water with this in mind. I would encourage you to see this on a big screen or at least have a great at-home setup for maximum immersion, as it's easy to find yourself swept away to the island of Motunui, and what lies beyond Moana 2 picks up three years after the first movie, where Moana is still fully connected to the ocean she adores so much. When she receives an unexpected call from her ancestors, she assembles a crew as a wayfinder where she hopes to track down the hidden island of Modu, reconnecting the people of the ocean once again. As ever, she is enthusiastic about the mission, perilous as it may be, and would have been quite happy going off and doing it all by herself. She is encouraged to form a crew instead, and this merry band of misfits is thoroughly entertaining to watch so much, so I think it will be worth rewatching when it arrives on Disney+. The four-person crew is made up of Auliʻi Chung, who is a superfan of the demigod Maui, Lotto Rose Maffio, who is an engineer of sorts, and K. David Fain, a farmer who is grumpy and not massively thrilled to be recruited. This mismatch of personalities is excellent fun, resulting in some expected chaos, especially when you throw in Ichiai, Hei, and Pua. They say to never work with animals for a reason, right? I really loved Moana's crew and all the performances. Still, one that stood out to me the most was Moana's little sister, Simia Kessie Lambert's Suda, who stole the show despite her limited screen time, thanks to her feisty, lovable personality. If Moana 3 does happen, I'd certainly like to see more of her along the way. Maui, of course, because Emo simply would not be complete without Dwayne Johnson's cocky, reckless demigod figure. When Moi finally meets Maui, there are plenty of laugh-out-loud moments, while the plot of Moana 2 is centered around finding a new long-lost island. It's quite ironic that many of the beats feel similar to what we've seen before. This is a journey we have undertaken as viewers, but I didn't mind following along for a second time. Going on a voyage with Moana is always wonderful. I adore the songs, the atmosphere, everything about it, even though we didn't quite reach the memorable heights of You're Welcome. I have had some of the songs stuck in my head this week, especially What Could Be Better Than This, so it's not like any of the songs were complete duds. While predictable in places, there is plenty of action, especially when it comes to the third act, where I did actually start crying. The mark of any good Disney movie, in my opinion. If I'm not sobbing into my popcorn, I do find myself disappointed. There is also more than room for a follow-up movie, and I sincerely hope it happens. Lucy is a longtime movie and television lover who is an approved critic on Rotten Tomatoes. She has written several reviews in her time, starting with a small self-ran blog called Lucy Goes to Hollywood, before moving on to bigger websites such as What's on TV and What to Watch, with Tech Radar being her most recent venture. Her interests primarily lie within horror and thriller, loving nothing more than a chilling story that keeps her thinking moments after the credits have rolled. Many of these creepy tales can be found on the streaming services she covers regularly when she's not scaring herself half to death with the various shows and movies she watches she likes, to unwind by playing video games on easy mode and has no shame in admitting she's terrible at them. She also quotes The Simpsons religiously and has a Blinky the Fish tattoo, solidifying her position as a complete nerd, originally planned as a TV series, now a feature film. Moana 2 is the sequel to Disney's smash hit family animation Moana from 2016, and really it's a vacuum-packed slice of digital IP content, a perky chat GPT iteration of love, laughter, and belonging. Hawaiian-born actor Auliʻi Cravalho returns to voice the role of Moana, the teen heroine. On a Polynesian island in the first film, she was chosen by her waif, finding ancestors and the mysterious forces of the ocean to restore the natural order of things disrupted by the swaggering but somehow adorable demigod Maui, voiced by Dwayne Johnson. Now it's a few years later, and Moana is a much-respected young woman on the island, admired and imitated by the female inhabitants that Maui calls Ananab. Extra information: the venerated Walt Disney Animation Studios has had an odd relationship with sequels. For a long time, follow-ups to its animated classics were largely outsourced as DTV cheapies. Who remembers Lady and the Two Scamps? Adventure, on the other hand, its most successful film ever, is the billion-dual grossing Frozen 2. Moana 2 has had a similarly confusing journey to the screen. It began life as a TV series before eventually changing course and making the leap to the big screen. and thank goodness it did, because this quality of animation deserves every inch of a cinema screen, a retread that plays it relatively safe. Moana 2 hardly reinvents any wheel or whales, but it is still delightful, charming, and gorgeous to look at. The new directing trio of David, Derrick Jr., Jason Hand, and Dana Leo Miller, staying true to the integrity of the 2016 original story. More seafaring adventures with a titular Polynesian teenager, Auliʻi Cravalho, and her shape-shifting, tattooed demigod pal Maui Dwayne Johnson, set years after the events of the first film, were caught up, as you might expect, with a two-tapping expository song, The Village. We learn is now lush and thriving after Moana rescued it from doom, and she is now a minor celebrity, a wayfinder, whose signature hair whip is mimicked by superfans, among them her outrageously adorable, puppy-eyed little sister Simia, Kessie Lambert-Suda. But the ancestors are still calling her isolated community, needs to find other peoples beyond the horizon, so she sets sail again. Moana is still a hugely engaging hero, especially for young girls, a Pawai and endearing theater-kids goofball, and Kahlo still has an impressive set of pipes, especially in new signature song Beyond. Dwayne Johnson's Maui leaves slightly less of an impression. His song Can I Get a Chi, who is not quite the pleasingly sure earworm of You're Welcome, the first film's chief songwriter, Lin-Manuel. Miranda did not return for the second film, but Maui and his magical fish hook are still the franchise's secret weapon. As soon as the people's eyebrow pops up on a shape-shifted shark, you're having fun. It remains outside of a Fast and Furious film. Johnson's best role, Moana, has plenty of help this time, in fact, along with old pals, including a furry pig, a sense-stealing stupid boggly chicken voiced by Juilliard-trained actor Alan Tudyk, and a high-fiving anthropomorphic abyss-style ocean spirit. She is also joined by a new crew. You sense that these characters might have had more to do in TV form, but they're still very fun, as whimsical boat engineer, lotto comedian Rose Maffio in particular gets a pacey Miranda as solo, while Taue regular David Fiend has a nice turn as a grumpy farmer who can't swim and hates songs. Even the coconut-headed Kakamura enjoy an emotional character arc of their own, the songs about working together, living up to your responsibility, and destiny in motion are typical of modern Disney films, as is the sense of wacky peril. Yet, despite the constant danger, there is no straightforward antagonist here. Other than a cursed storm, in effect, the real villain here is bad weather, which is fine, actually. It leaves more room to luxuriate in the stunningly rendered oceanic fantasy mythology this is. Animated fun of a very high standard, Maui's luscious locks have never looked silkier or better condition, and storytelling that leans on formula without being reliant on it. And as with the first film, there's a sense that Disney isn't looking to repeat mistakes of the past, celebrating the Polynesian culture with its rituals, dancing, singing, and stories rooted in authenticity. Also, there's a very funny boggle-eye chicken. In recent years, family audiences have developed a complicated relationship with Disney. The failures of the once invulnerable studio have received plenty of attention, and not undeservingly so. But there have also been some undeniable hits along the way. Frozen may be the most popular, but in the humble opinion of this reviewer, the best modern Disney flick is 2016's Moana, with endearing characters, a fantastic collection of songs, and an entertaining adventure story. The movie was a total delight. That film was about journeying into uncharted seas, but sometimes, particularly when you're a floundering movie studio, it's more prudent to return to familiar shores. Moana 2 is a wholesome and enjoyable sequel. But despite retreading many of the same narrative beats as the original, it's never able to recapture the same magic the sequel has navigated, a circuitous route to reach the big screen. A follow-up to Moana was first conceived in 2020 as a multi-episode streaming series for Disney Plus before eventually being reworked as a theatrical release. Despite the theatrical glow-up, Moana still feels like a streaming show at times. For the most part, the animation looks first-rate and up to modern standards, but beyond the visuals, there is a clear dip in quality in most other areas. Story, characters, jokes, music, etc. The story also unfolds in episodic, almost disjointed fashion, making it easy to imagine where the initial episode breaks would have been. As a parent, I understand that for many of you readers, the most pressing question is not, is this film artistically excellent, but rather, will it entertain my child for a few hours? Yes, Moana 2 is a perfectly passable animated adventure. My 29-year-old boys both had a great time with it, as did several young girls in the theater with us. And there's enough charm for the parents as well. For Christian parents not spooked away by the story's mythological and spiritual elements. Moana 2 is wholesome entertainment without any of the unwanted surprises that modern Disney has become known for. Still, given the caliber of the original film, and nearly a decade of waiting for Disney to craft Moana's next adventure, audiences are also justified in hoping for something more inspired. Moana 2 feels more like a sequel mandated by executives in a Hollywood boardroom with year-end finances in mind rather than a fed from the creative genius of inspired storytellers. It's enjoyable, but it lacks the innovative energy of the first film. Starting its life as a streaming show meant that not all the original creatives returned for the sequel. No absence is felt more strongly than Lin-Manuel Miranda, the man responsible for some of Disney's best songs in years in Moana, including hits like How Far I'll Go and You're Welcome. Abigail Barlow and Emily Bear take the songwriting reins for Moana 2, but they're unable to reach the same musical heights. There are a few decent songs, such as the central tune Beyond the Ya, playful what could be better than this, and Maui's new solo, Can I Get a Chihu? But none have the same infectious, sing-along quality or memorability as anything from the original in one sense. The story is overstuffed, another likely byproduct of its episodic roots, with a lot of exposition dumps early on and several characters and story elements that are dropped and never revisited. At the same time, the plot also follows remarkably close to the original film. Thus, Maui is again introduced by Moana, saving him from captivity. There's a near-identical conflict with the Kakamura, the coconut pirates, and a familiar third act that sees Moana needing to sail through stormy water to release a magical island from the powers of a large, angry deity. There's nostalgic comfort and familiarity, but such a similar narrative can make Moana too feel like Disney. Singing karaoke, offering a new rendition of a far superior original. The main difference between the two films is that Moana is now 3 years older, having already matured and completed her initial hero's journey as a character. Moana remains winsome with her spunky resilience and bubbly optimism. She now takes on a leadership role, charged with taking a crew of quirky individuals on the adventure. The new crew members are all fine, but they are continually overshadowed by the returning legacy characters. The character of Maui feels underutilized and doesn't intersect with Moana until well into the runtime. The relational dynamic between him and Moana, that was the heart of the original, remains a highlight of the sequel, but they are given less time together as a result of the expanded cast of much less interesting characters in the end. Whether audiences find Moana 2 to be smooth sailing or bumpy water may depend on how they manage expectations. Parents looking for safe animated entertainment, or kids simply wanting to see their favorite heroine back on the big screen, should find what they're looking for. Here, audiences seeking another inspired Disney classic, however, will be left wanting more. Unfortunately, Moana's second adventure is more akin to the prior DirecTech video days of the return of Jafar and The Lion King 2: Simba's Pride than it is to the recent, inventively build upon the original days of Inside Out 2: The Sea may be calling to Moana to find out how far she'll go. But if there is a Moana 3 on the horizon, one hopes she will answer that call with more urgency. Leaving behind familiar shores to explore something exciting and new: sexuality. A young man is infatuated with the demigod Maui, although it appears to be hero worship rather than anything romantic. The movie expands upon the mythology of the first film, with plenty of talk about gods, demigods, and other spiritual beings. There are also frequent Polynesian cultural and religious influences, with a strong emphasis on the ancestors whose spirits still speak with and guide the characters, sometimes in visible, ghostly form. The movie's central motif is about being connected. The theme plays out on a global level, with Moana's position as a wayfinder and her mission to connect all, the people of the ocean, together. The importance of Unity SL community is also explored in the more limited context of the adventure itself. Unlike the first film, in which Moana leaves her island community to set out on her quest alone, this time she is accompanied by a diverse trio of fellow adventurers. The crew begins as a collection of individuals, each focused on their own interests and strengths, and Moana, through the help of a few musical numbers, must fashion them into a harmonious team working as one each. Member retains their individual quirks, but they learn to use their talents to contribute to the communal unit. The Bible urges Christians to be perfectly united in mind and thought. 1 Corinthians, created to exist in community, each individual an important and valuable part of a larger body. 1 Corinthians 12:27. One of Moana's most endearing qualities is her stubborn resilience. As with the first film, perseverance is a prominent theme, although it is explored in a way that may make some parents uncomfortable. A song called Get Lost is initially presented as a classic Disney villain song, but the singer is ultimately revealed to have more motivations. The lyrics include refrains like this taken at face value. Some parents may not be overly thrilled to have their children embracing the song too literally in the context of the film. However, the song is more of a challenge to not give up. The specific lesson Moana gleans from the encounter is the realization there's always another way. Less an anthem about living rebelliously. Moana 2 attempts to offer a message about not giving up, about boldly and relentlessly pressing forward to find a solution. Christians can affirm that message. Scripture says, "Blessed is the man who remains steadfast under trial, for when he has stood the test, he will receive the crown of life, which God has promised to those who love him." James 1:12. This film directed by Derrick. Junior Jason Hand, Dana Leo Miller, screenplay by Jared Bush, Dana Leo Miller, story by Jared Bush, Dana Leo Miller, Baith producer by Christina Chen, Iet Merino, starring Auliʻi Cravalho, Dwayne Johnson, Pai Chung Rose, Maffio, David Fain, By Fraser, Kissy Lambert, Sudateo Morrison, Nicole Scherzinger, Rachel House, Gerald Ramsey, Alan Tutt, music by Mark Menina, PAO production company, Walt Disney Animation. Studios distributed by Walt Disney Studios Motion Pictures. Release November 21st, 2024. In Lenona Cultural Institute. November 27th, 2024 in United States. Running time 100 minutes. Country United States. Language English. Box office $113.8 million. So, guys, this is the review of Moana 2 movie and some information about it. How do you like our today's video? Please let us know by commenting. And if you like this video, please like it, share it, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching.